What's up, America? Neil here with Geauga Firearms Academy. Thanks for watching. We get quite a few questions about why police officers, law enforcement, why they're trained to shoot center mass, why instructors teach to shoot center mass, and so forth. So let's cover some of those things. So first off, we have to take into context the condition by which you're going to be in this life or death position, right? So kind of a funny way to say that, but I mean, our adrenaline is jacked. Obviously, if we're going to use a firearm, we're in a position where we're about to receive serious bodily harm or death. I mean, that is the full across any state, right? And if we don't do some type of action, we're going to be seriously hurt or killed, okay? In that state, and let's just also look at the human psyche and as people walking around Earth, right? We have biological responses to dangers and fears, okay, that don't always lend to the best performance in certain situations, right? The idea there is for us to perform at our best physically, but what we now have to do is take a fairly complex tool out, whatever that may be, and use that to potentially defend ourselves. We also need to make, and this is the big one, snap decisions. I mean split-second decisions that will alter lives indefinitely. Yours, potential threat, people in your environment, keeping in mind that in any situation like this is not going to be, I mean, we all go train on a flat range and shoot at cardboard and targets and maybe up three-dimensional or moving targets, and that is fantastic. But nothing will ever take the place of I'm in a area where there are other human beings who are in a panic, who are not paying attention to the fact that you might be trying to use this tool to defend yourself. In other words, they may run in front of you when you don't expect it. And as a police officer, you should assume that's going to happen. It's a fluid, ever-changing environment that is chaotic and out of your control. The only thing that you can somewhat control is your own being. And even that, many times, I'm telling you from my experience, is not within your control. I'll give you a quick little example. Anytime I get a large adrenaline dump in a very bad scenario in law enforcement, my hands shake. There is no two ways about it. There's nothing I can do to stop it. When I first got into law enforcement, it was a big deal because, again, and this is where I'm going to kind of go to, prior to that, I wasn't in a whole lot of those types of experience. I mean, hopefully you don't walk around and you're always in a life or death situation every week. I hope that's not the case. And so now I have these, my hands start to tremble, my heart rate jacks up, right? You start to get tunnel vision, audio inclusion, all types of things that happen when you get an adrenaline dump. And when we're not prepared for that, right, that's a big deal in this situation. So now where I'm at, even though I already know many times I'm going to be in a situation, maybe it's a high-level scenario, we're on a special team to handle this and what have you, I can't control the fact that my hands are going to have a little shake to them. And it's okay. I can perform, I can shoot, I can do what I need to do. I already know now that it's going to happen, so it's not, I'm prepared for it now. And I would say that over time it has reduced a little bit, because unfortunately you get in those situations repeatedly, which is not, you shouldn't be living your life that way. You shouldn't always be in these scenarios. So now we take a person who's, caring and protecting their family and whatever the case is, and now we have all these biological responses, right? Our body starts to do these things that we're not prepared for. And so now we have to use this tool in this incredibly high pressure, high stress, quick decision environment. And so the reason, long story short, that we go for the center mass area is not necessarily that it's the most effective at stopping the threat, it's the largest target area, okay? Again, people will often say, well, we'll get into the crazy things in just a second. You guys have watched the news and we'll get into that. What is the goal here? The goal here is to stop the threat, okay? To stop the actions of that person, okay? So people a lot of times will say, well, what about the head? Well, if you're a typical shooter on a range, and when I say typical, I'm talking 95% of you 900, pretty much 99.9, if you're new to shooting and don't have a lot of experience and you're a right-hander, shooting low left or left-hander, shooting low and right. We made tons of videos on that. I built a career on why that happens. I'm not going to get into that now, but think about this. People that shoot in the head, most of those rounds end up in the neck area if they're pretty decent, okay? Well, as you can probably imagine, your neck area doesn't have a whole lot of structure that's hard. Obviously your spine, but the rest of this, a defensive round is going to go through that, and you have to be responsible not only for the threat that you're trying to stop, but where does that bullet continue to sail? Where does that land, right? It's always little Timmy on the tricycle, and we don't want that. You gotta, not only do we have to justify all of this legally, you are a human being. And so people always talk about there's 3 fights, right? There's the actual gun fight, there's the legal fight, but very few people ever talk about the third one, which is the emotional fight, okay? And as a police officer who's been through some things, that's a very real fight that will never leave you. Those results will change you forever. And although you try to do the right thing, when that bullet sails on, you have to live with the fact that you got little Timmy on the tricycle. You got to live with that. And that's a self-imposed prison sentence, if you will, that you can't escape. So the idea here is, again, center mass is where the largest target area is. Now, people also say, and we'll kind of bring in the goofy stuff that you hear, well, why don't they just shoot him in the leg? So if you know anybody with any medical background, or you can do your own research, you can look up femoral artery that runs through your legs. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but essentially, if you clip that artery, unless you have very good life-saving aid right now, it's not going to be good. Okay. In fact, lower survivability by getting rounds in lower appendages than upper. Okay. So that is definitely by no means. Not that there is such a thing as a safe place where you could use a tool. You guys trying to get where I'm going here. I'm trying to navigate YouTube so we don't get banned for something like this. I'm trying to explain a concept that's probably, we got to kind of skirt around. So you get where I'm going with this. However, that said, we have what's called the pelvic girdle, okay? And this is also taught in law enforcement as well. A pelvic girdle shot is an unsighted, meaning I'm not using my sights. It's very close. The person is taken by surprise. They came around a corner. They have a knife, a deadly weapon, and basically I'm just drawing and I'm indexing my forearm onto my body, which we practice often, and something that when you progress to that level in your training you should do as well. Taking note of where our support hand is, and we can put rounds in the pelvic girdle. And the idea there is that if we can destroy the structure, even if the person is on drugs and doesn't feel pain and isn't stopped by that, the physical collapse of the structure is what prevents them from continuing to do bad things. So we stop the threat. Okay, so the pelvic girdle is definitely an area that we go towards. Other than that, we're talking about percentile, right? What is a high percentile? What is a low percentile? So this is all the center mass is a high percentile. This is a very low percentile shot. On a SWAT team, you know, that's a shot that we may need to take, which is why we train so much, and why, you know, a hostage situation, something like that, which is a whole nother level than just the average person out there carrying, which by all means, I hope you train as much as I do, or even more. That would be ideal. But realistically, that's the bottom line answer to why do we shoot center mass. Largest target area, highest percentile. All right? So hopefully that was helpful. A little education there for you guys. I try to skirt around some words so that we can keep this video on there and you can learn something best we can. You know where to find us on YouTube. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, please think about doing so. We have lots of educational videos. We've got lots of product reviews, and we love you to a people. You can go ahead and hit the little bell that says all, so you get our updates when we send stuff out. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. We put all our A-list stuff on Patreon. In fact, if you're watching this video on YouTube, there is another video that you'll never see that only goes to Patreon. Until next time, remember, it's always better to be judged by 12 then carried by 6.